you. I don't know what's going on.
Hi, everybody. We are live. We are super, super excited to be here we're going to be talking about the summer loving buy one, get one 50% off sale at Barnes & Noble. And we are super, super excited about that. So, hi, I'm Lisa Daly. Tonight we have a whole collection of incredible indie rom-com authors. So let's just do a little intro. Say hi, everybody. I'm going to start with you, Elizabeth. Will you just tell us a little about you?
Oh, sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Elizabeth, SaFleur. And I write in several genres. I definitely write steamy romantic comedy. I also write steamy contemporary, and I have a long running erotic romance series, though I'm not doing that as much. I'm doing more rom-com because I like to laugh.
We need that right now.
Yeah, we definitely do. And I'm here in Central Virginia right now, beautiful Central Virginia, one of the few places that's not raining yet.
All right, tell us a little fun fact about you.
A fun fact. Well, this is something that most people don't know about me. I used to dance and teach burlesque for many, many years. And I actually started over 40. So I started it kind of late in life. Because you're never too old to play with feather fans and ostrich feather boas and wear all the glitter and all the sparkles. Because let's face it, it's all about the costume. Right. It's all about the storytelling too. You know, you're telling a story with your dance. So it kind of was a natural companion in kind of an interesting way with writing books.
I love that. I had no idea that you were a burlesque dancer. I think that was just like the greatest thing ever. Yay. Welcome. I'm super excited about that. Next, let's hear from Kelly Jamieson. Tell us a little about you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kelly Jamieson. I write contemporary romance, more specifically lately hockey romance, which is pretty popular right now. And my books have my hockey romances have kind of become rom-com-ish. They're like pretty funny. Like we said earlier, we all need more laughs in our life right now. I live in Winnipeg in Canada, which is right in the middle of Canada, for those who may not know. Go Jets go, that's my team. And a fun fact about me, which is not any surprise to anybody, unlike the burlesque dancing, is that I obviously am a huge hockey fan. I have been watching hockey since I was a baby. My mom and my grandmother were both big hockey fans and used to sit me on the carpet in front of the TV every Saturday night for hockey night in Canada. And I guess that's how I got to love hockey.
Well, you've been studying to create those yummy hockey guys all your life. Is basically
all my life.
All your life. I love that. We also have Lainey Davis with us in the center square today. Hi, Lainey. Tell us a little bit about you.
Hi, everyone. I am tuning in from Pittsburgh, where I set almost all of my books because I love the city. And I'm also a huge sports fan. So there's obviously all the Pittsburgh sports, but I play sports too. So right now the Olympics is happening and it's like all that I do. That is my fun fact. I watch the Olympics all day. I have strong opinions about all of it. And so a lot of my books end up having sports in them where both the woman and the man in my rom-coms play sports. And yeah, I'm just like so excited to be participating with this group. And I do love a BOGO. So I'm excited. Right? I'm excited that Nook is helping us set that up for you all.
I also love a BOGO. I am like the bargain hunter. Love, especially a book BOGO. Oh my gosh, that's the greatest. All right, next we have Cathryn Fox. Tell us a little about you.
Hey guys, I am Cathryn Fox and I'm coming at you from Nova Scotia, Canada, East Coast, pretty much far east as you can get, except if you jump across over to Newfoundland. I am also a sports romance author here. There seems to be a few of us. I am mainly focusing on hockey. And like Kelly said, hockey is pretty popular right now. I do have a lot of humor in my hockey books, but I also do write rom-coms. And I kind of drilled down. I seem to have a thing with British people and Scottish men. A man in a kilt, I'm in.
Yeah.
I also have a thing for a man in a kilt. I don't write any books like that, but I definitely have a thing for a man in a kilt. Absolutely, absolutely. We also have, well, thank you very much. Before I just jump right off here, we also have Karen Gray with us today. Tell us a little about you.
Hi, I am Karen Gray. You may also know me as the audiobook narrator Karen White, which I did for a long time. But now I am writing as Karen Gray because Karen White was taken. So I write what I call nostalgic rom-coms, which my first series was set in the 1980s in Boston, and my second in the 1990s in North Carolina. And I'm currently in Atlanta, Georgia. We've moved around a lot, so it's hard to keep track. Fun fact about me, it's a little embarrassing. So
Bring it on.
All of my nostalgic, I also have written one contemporary romance, and so this is not true of that. But all of my nostalgic romances have song titles as names. I'm not quite sure how I started doing that or why, because I cannot remember a band, a song title to save my life. And I've been like that my whole life. I love music, but if you ask me what I'm listening to, I'm like, I don't know. It's just that I like. Always my brother, then my husband, and now my children, they make the playlists for me, and I just listen to what people tell me to listen to, but I still don't know what it's called. So that required a lot of research for me to come up with my titles.
Well, there are so many great song titles from the 90s. And so I think that gives I think it's really cool because there's such a, I don't know, fascination with Gen Z over 90s stuff, 90s clothes, 90s music, 90s books. So I love that you're really exploring that from, somebody who was there. So yeah. All right. Totally love that. Serena, tell us a little about you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Serena Bell. I live in the Pacific Northwest on an island in Puget Sound, about a half an hour from Seattle. And it's a biggish town, but it's an island, so it's sort of a small town. And so appropriately, I write steamy small town rom-coms with a lot of found family.
Aww.
And so my fun fact is that I have had lunch with Bart Simpson. Okay, so technically,
tell us the story.
So a friend was going to have a meeting with Nancy Cartwright, who voices Bart Simpson, about a movie possibility, and she asked me to go with her. So we took a train up to LA, and we had lunch in Nancy Cartwright's house. So that's my random claim to fame.
I love that. That is so funny.
Jealous.
I know, right? That's hilarious. I have to say, I'll tell you guys the story in just a second. So I'm last. My name's Lisa Daly, and I'm from Sarasota, Florida, and I write beachy rom-coms and hockey rom-coms. So if you like hockey rom-coms, man, you have a lot of choices today. And my fun fact is that for 15 years, I was the love and dating guru on a national TV morning show called Daytime, where I would dole out lots and lots of advice on sex and relationships. And that one of the things that I love the most about that is that we had this host, Dave Nemeth, who I believe is now in Salt Lake City, who is the nicest man in the world. And it was always my goal to make Dave blush with my daytime smut talk. So that was my big thing. But I am so excited about this. I'm so excited about this group and these books. Oh my gosh. Let's talk about the books. So I want to talk about, let's kind of go through and talk about some of the books that we've got going here. Let's start with Elizabeth's Kiss a Ginger Day. One of the things that I think is so cool about this group is that all of these books that we're talking about today have a little backstory behind them, and we're going to fill you guys in on the scoop. So tell us the story about about the Kiss.
The snowstorm.
Yeah. Kiss a Ginger Day. Tell us the Kiss a Ginger Day backstory.
Yes. Okay. So this really happened to me. And I filed it away for like 2 decades to pull it out somewhere. So in my late 20s, I used to work for this Washington, D.C. lobbying firm. Don't hate me. We were the good guys. It was the music industry. But I would travel around the country doing these media tours, and they sent me to Burlington, Vermont in the first week in December to do a TV interview. So, I fly up there, I get my rental car, I'm in my little Washington, D.C. power suit, in my little high heels, because, I'm like 27. So did I dress appropriately? No. And so I'm in Burlington, I do the interview, I come out like 45 minutes later, and it has snowed like 6 to 8 inches of snow. And not only was I inappropriately dressed, my first thought was, dang, where is my car? And what does it look like? Because it's a rental car, right? Like I can't remember. So I walked around ruining my shoes, like cleaning off cars, like 50 cars for like, I don't know, another 45 minutes or an hour. And not a single hot lumberjack, not a single dad with an inn that was secretly a maple syrup farmer needing a wife came to my rescue. And I'm still a little bitter about it. So I kind of thought this would have been a meet cute. So I kept that, tucked it away. And that is the opening scene in Kiss a Ginger Day, which is part of this BOGO deal. And except she
Show us
did
the
have.
book. Do you have the book? Can we see it?
Oh, I do have the book. Yes. Kiss a Ginger
Nice.
Day.
Love it.
And, she did have a hot hero come to her rescue after she comes out, and finds her car is missing, and she doesn't have one of those key fob things. So he carries her as she's going around swiping off cars. And of course, she still can't get her car out because it's stuck in the snow once they find it. So she has to go home with him. Darn.
Oh, she has to. What other choice does she have?
I know. I, on the other hand, got in my rental car and drove back to the crappy hotel. So, yeah, that's my real story.
I can't believe there were no lumberjacks roaming around the parking lot. I mean,
I know.
That just seems really crazy. I am so Rhonda Butterbaugh says, I love that book. I loved it.
Thank you,
which
Rhonda.
is great. I'm sorry, we're like we had a whole big plan to pop up the book pages so you could actually see what the cover looks like. But yeah. Oh, there you go. So Kiss a Ginger Day. In the buy one, get one 50% off sale on Barnes & Noble. So that is really awesome. Thank you, Elizabeth, for telling us all about that. So Kelly, you have a really fascinating story about Game Changer. Can you share that with us?
So Game Changer is, there I am. There's the book, there's the cover. It's part of my Win Hockey series. And it is a runaway bride story. Ooh. That's just kind of the setup for it. She runs away. The man she runs away with is a hockey player, of course. And it's the off season. So he happens to be leaving town for the rest of the summer, and she convinces him to let her go with him. So one of the places that they go to is, because he grew up in Winnipeg, is Riding Mountain National Park. Now, most of my hockey books are set in the United States. A lot, like I have two series that are in Chicago, one in New York, one that kind of moves around from in California, Los Angeles-ish. But in off season, they go back to Manitoba, Canada, and they spend about a month at this lake cottage there, and the reason that this is sort of personal to me is because I grew up there. My family had a cottage at Riding Mountain National Park. So as I was writing the book, all the things that they did, getting cinnamon buns at this particular restaurant, going to the wishing well, going to the golf course, walking out on the pier and sitting out on the bench at the end, looking over the lake, which is an amazing, beautiful lake for anybody who's not familiar with it, which you probably aren't. It's crystal clear blue. That's why it's called Clear Lake. And one of the things that that he tells her, Jax tells Molly, our runaway bride, is that they have to watch out for bears. So, which is a true fact, that there are bears in the park for sure, and they do get into the town quite often, and they're looking for garbage. These days, things are all kind of bear proofed better than they were when I was a kid. When I was a kid, they had a bear trap that they would set. And so just down the back lane from our cottage, one day we went for a walk, all us kids, and there was a bear in the trap, which was pretty cool. We were watching the bear. I mean, they're black bears. They're kind of like, not like a grizz or anything, but still. Then we had this genius idea. We were little kids, to get the dog and show the dog to the bear, which set the bear off. The bear just went berserko, growling and snarling, and holy crap, did we run? That bear was in a cage, but we were running from that bear. So anyway, through the book, Jax bugs Molly all the time about, watch out, there could be a bear around the corner. And they do see a bear, but that's all that happens.
Well, I love that story. That is absolutely fantastic. So just so you guys know, if you are commenting and you have not heard back from us, it's because just due to the kind of system that we're working with, that we are not able to comment right now. But we're just going to sit here and hang out and tell you guys some really, really good stories. Speaking of which, there is a fantastic little story behind Lainey's book, Suspension. Can you share a little about that, please? We'd love to hear it.
Yes. So
love it.
This is my book, Suspension. It's in my Brady Family series, which, the whole series came about based on like a real life ridiculous story. But the particular thing that happened in book 2, I was writing this series during quarantine, and all the public pools were closed in Pittsburgh. And everybody I know was posting every other day on the internet how they had a stock tank pool, which you can Google it, you can look it up on Pinterest. And they were not just getting a stock tank, which is literally like a tank that you would use to give water to livestock, but they were like making them fancy and building decks around them in the city. And I just thought this was so ridiculous, and why were people doing this? So then a friend of mine asked if I wanted to go in on a trough share, and we were going to order a horse trough to share. She has 5 kids. I have 3 kids. Everybody was hot. So we ordered this horse trough to be delivered in the city. And the delivery guy was like, "Do you guys have a horse?" I was like, "No, just put it right there in the yard." And he was so confused. So we filled up this stock tank, and the kids didn't want to get into a galvanized metal tub in the middle of the sun. And so I climbed into this tank, and I was like, this is amazing. I was all alone for the first time in 10 months. I was cool because I was submerged in water, and I was like, this has to be in a book. And so I don't have the pandemic. It doesn't exist in my book, but one of my characters, her true love builds her a stock tank pool in the backyard. And I knew that another one of my characters would be house sitting. And I feel like she just had no choice but to break in the stock tank pool with the hero of the story. And in the book, theirs is not just a plain horse trough. It's like a real fancified Pinterest-worthy stock tank pool. So.
I love that. I actually saw another author who was sort of trying to manifest her best life. She always wanted a pool. And so that's what she did. She bought a big, and they built a little pretty deck on it and some fancy chairs. It was awesome. So
well, Rhonda is saying over here in the comments that she has it. She's got it painted, and she has a filter with pool noodles. So Rhonda knows exactly what it looks like in my head, where Liam and not Nicole, who's the heroine of this book? Maddie. where Liam and Maddie break in the stock tank.
I love that. All right, quick poll. Raise your hand if you've ever forgotten the name of a character during an interview.
I thought you were going to say, raise your hand if you're ordering a stock tank right after this program.
I love that. That's awesome. I just think that was such a great solution for so many people. I absolutely love that. So, Cathryn, first of all, I have to say I love the title "Crazy Apologetic Canadians." So tell us a little bit about the backstory that you have for this book.
Okay, so Crazy Apologetic Canadians is actually set here in Nova Scotia, and it's a true story. We have an amusement park. I took my daughter there every single year for her birthday, and I used to trick her. I'd say, "Oh, let's just get in the car and go for a ride." And I think she was like 19. I'm still doing this, and she's like, "I kind of think I know where we're going, Mom." But anyway, she used to play along. And what happened? The true story is, there's a voice. It's a beautiful piece of land in our Annapolis Valley where apple orchards. It's built like orchards all around it. It's gorgeous. So when it wasn't making any money anymore, a boys' school from England, they decided they were going to come in and buy the property. So that's what this whole story is based on. And in my story, we are kind of facing off, not against a bear like you, Kelly, but a sphinxed cat. And this incident happened to me a long time ago. Like with you, Elizabeth, you stored it away and you were like, I have to tell this in a book when it fits in a book. And I talked to my husband earlier. He's a really good sport for you, all you who have met him. And he says, I will never forgive you if you tell this story. and he goes, nobody is going to believe it anyway. And I'm like, sometimes fiction, or sometimes real life, like you can't make this stuff up.
True.
So we were in the Annapolis Valley, very close to where this amusement park was. And we went apple picking. And it was, getting into the evening. And for those who know me know I love scary movies. Like the B scary movies are the best. It's really strange. Like I'll be cooking in the kitchen and I'll have a B scary movie on. And my husband hates them. So he says, okay, well, we can watch a scary movie. So we're watching a movie that night. And it was something, I don't know, aliens or something just horrible. And I'm like, I want an apple because we had gone apple picking. I'm like, can you please go get me an apple? But I probably didn't say it that nice. But anyway, so he goes out and he goes out to the car. He says, I don't know really if I want to go outside. Like, what if there's someone or something out there? Because he was clearly scared from this movie. I'm like, oh, it's fine. He goes, well, what if something's there? What are you going to do if I'm outside? I said, well, I'm going to lock the door. Like, I'm going to be like safe in here. And you're just going to have to deal with that. So he comes running back in. He says, I heard something. There was some rustling sounds. There was something out there. I'm like, it's fine. It's perfectly fine. So I eat my apple. We go to bed. The next day, we're packing up to go home. So we leave the door to the Airbnb open because we're carrying stuff back and forth. And I'm still out at the car and I hear, a scream. Like I thought he's being murdered. Somebody murdered him in the Airbnb. So I go running in and I run into the bedroom and he is literally in a face-off with a sphinx cat. And they look a little alien. For anybody who has them, they're beautiful. I think they look like a plucked chicken. So he is freaked out and he's screaming. He's like, it's an alien. He just doesn't know what he's doing, right? He's losing it. And I swear to God, like he's trying to protect me and put me behind him. And I'm trying to what is going on? What is going on? And then, I laugh. I still laugh when I talk about it. And he's like, if you do tell that story, don't you make it like I was screaming like a girl or anything, right? So I'm like, I'll make you tough. I'll make you tough. So I made him tough because he did put me behind him and try to protect me. And I filed that away. And I'm like, when this story came and it was in the same setting, I thought, my British hero who has a stick up his bum really needs to go face to face with an alien cat to see. Then we can see what he's made of.
I love that. I think probably one of my favorite things, and I want to know about this for you guys as well, but one of my favorite things as an author is always taking some weird things that happen and doing just what you said, storing them away. And that's the writing that weird stuff, whether it's something that really happened or something that is completely coming out of our brains, is that's the best part. I love that goofy fall down, being defended by or being defended, I guess, against a Sphinx cat, the most terrifying cat in the world.
They kind of are.
Except for, lions and tigers and stuff. But other than that, totally the Sphinx cat. Love, 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 love that story. That was hilarious. Karen, you have such a fun story for You Spin Me, which is the name of a song, if you guys didn't know that. So can you tell us about sort of the real life inspo for that? Love this.
I can. So this is You Spin Me. It is about our main female character, whose name is Jessica. Just remembered. And our main male character, whose name is Cal or Callahan, who is a radio DJ. She is, if you can see, she's got the leg warmers and she's in a leotard. She is a dancer / actress. So in this book, Jessica is driving back from her new job on a theater rehearsal for a play that is about an hour north of Boston, which is where the 1980s books are set. And it's winter. And so she's listening to the radio. And I know these days that they do still have contests on the radio that you call in, but you have to remember back in the 80s, there was no cell phone in the car except for people who worked on Wall Street would have the giant cell phones that weighed like 12 pounds. Starving actresses / dancers did not have those. But not only could you not call from the car, but really the radio was the only source of music that we had besides live music or playing a CD or a cassette in the car. So she's driving home, she's singing along, and she's loving this DJ who's keeping her awake. And just as she's getting close to her ratty apartment building, there's a contest and he asks a question and she actually knows the answer to the question. Unlike me, I would never know the answer to the question. So she runs up her stairs. She runs in, she's able to press dial. And she gets through and she answers and it's right. And so he comes on and he talks to her for a minute and tells her what she's won and she's all excited. And then he goes off and the dude who's sort of in charge of giving out the prizes is taking her info. And she says, oh, could you just tell the DJ thank you for me because I have this job north of Boston and I have to drive home late at night now. And he has really been keeping me awake every night as I'm driving home. And so the dude is like, will you tell him? So he puts the DJ back on and she's all, oh, I thought you were working. And he's like, yeah, there's a song playing so I can talk to you. And so she explains, she says, I really appreciate you keeping me awake. I love the music you play. I'm a big fan, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, oh, well, thanks. And she says, so just thanks. And he says, well, and so you'll call me tomorrow night too, right? and she says, well, what if I don't know the answer to the question? And he says, well, if you don't call, I won't know that you're home safe. So he does that, and she calls him every night. She tells him when she's not working, so she doesn't necessarily call then. And they talk in between songs. Like, so he does his little thing. He slots the CDs in, and he plays the song, and then he comes back and he chats with her, and they'll talk for like an hour. It's like for her, it's winding down. For him, it's like he's getting to talk to this girl, and they're flirting. Well, in this story, a lot of the story, it's a what I call a Beauty and the Beast retelling. There are reasons why Cal does not want to meet her in person, but of course she wants to meet in person. And so that's how that goes. And it's a romance. So they do end up meeting and falling in love and working through all their issues. In real life, because this happened to me,
What?
Did know the answer to a music question one time in my life. And I was driving home from rehearsal. It was snowy. It was late. And I was singing along. And then I knew the answer and I ran inside and I got through and I won the thing. And then I thanked the DJ for keeping me awake. And he's like, well, you're going to call me again tomorrow night too, won't you? And I did. And for like the next 2 months, I would call him almost every night and we would chat, in between the songs. And the main difference is we did meet in person one time and there was no spark.
Oh,
Oh,
We just were in different places in our lives. He was pretty cute, but there was just, I don't know. He was more into meeting lots of girls in person. And I just kind of wanted to have one person at a time. So that was the prime reason. But it was, again, like you guys have said, it was such an amazing thing. It was such a fun time in my life to have this very unique relationship with this guy. And so at the time, I never thought I was going to write books, but I did file it away, obviously. And now it is the meet cute, essentially, of You Spin Me.
I love that story.
I love that.
That was so fun. So one of the things that you just talked about is this idea of like something happened in real life and the real life ending was wah, wah, wah. But you've given it a makeover in your book. Who else has done that?
That is the power of being a romance author, especially, I
Right?
think.
Yeah.
Right. We can take every disappointment turns into a beautiful love
We
story.
can punish every bad boss.
Oh,
We can,
oh yeah.
save all the children and the pets. We can
Mhm.
do all the things.
I had like a really memorable character, human character as my very first publicist for my very first book, and he later ended up as like a sort of a caricature of himself. And the funny thing is another author friend of mine also was with the same publisher, with Penguin, and they, as soon as she read that, she's like, "Is that?" And I was like, "Mm-hmm." So anyway, I love that we're able to do that. I think it's such a fun thing. So, Serena, your book has A Little Wilder, just a little wilder. A Little Wilder has a really fascinating backstory. Can you share that with us?
I would love to. And actually, this kind of fits with what we were just talking about how things turn out differently sometimes in fiction than in real life. So this is A Little Wilder, and it's part of the Wilder Adventure series. And A Little Wilder is a one-night stand surprise baby story. They meet in Vegas. They have a one-night stand. 6 months later, she shows up to work for his brother in the small town of Rush Creek, which is where most of my rom-coms are set. And she is visibly pregnant, and the timing is such, and it is his. And this is a he falls first book. So
I love that.
So he kind of knows by the second time that he sees her that he wants to convince her to stay and for them to raise the baby together. But he has a lot of convincing to do because she's this total free spirit. So he needs her to know that he'd be a great dad. And so he brings out all the nurture that he possibly can for her, which is not tough for him because of the brothers in this series, he's like definitely the cinnamon roll nurturer brother.
Oh, I love that.
So he shows her his nurturing side. And one of the ways he does that is by indulging her pregnancy cravings. And her number one pregnancy craving is for Boston cream pie. And it's really hard to find Boston cream pie in a small town in the Pacific Northwest. So he basically goes on a mission to find Boston cream pie. And so this story did not exactly happen to me this way. So my pregnancy cravings were totally different. I craved grapefruit and baked potatoes with cheddar cheese, and corn checks and Progresso Chicorina soup, the like chicken soup with the little icky chicken meatballs in it. That's all I ate for 4 months. But none of that felt like it belonged in this book. So I needed something else. And the craving that I am most familiar with outside of pregnancy is for vanilla custard. So I will tell you how this comes about. So I grew up in New Haven, Connecticut, which has a big Italian-American population, amazing, amazing coal-fired pizza, fabulous pastry shops. And growing up, my parents would always take us to this shop, Lucibello's. And basically it was like the family treat. So if everybody was on their best behavior and it was a good day and everyone was in a good mood, we would go to Lucibello's and we could order whatever treat we wanted. And my favorite was Sicilian cannoli, which is not the hard crust ricotta filled kind, but it's like a big puff pastry with confectioner's sugar and
keep talking. Keep talking.
Yeah. It's full of this super thick Italian vanilla custard, like the most amazing custard. So basically all of my like lifelong food fantasies go back to this item of food. So there are only a few places on the East Coast that you can get Italian pastry that good, but there are even fewer in the Pacific Northwest. So when we moved from the East Coast to the Pacific Northwest, Mr. Bell told me all the reasons that I was going to love the Pacific Northwest. Like the mountains are bigger and the oceans are better and the beaches are better, the weather's better, there's no bugs. But what he did not say is it will be even harder to get Italian pastry when we move to the Pacific Northwest, especially if we live on an island in a small town. So basically this section of A Little Wilder, in which he goes after the Boston cream pie. And I didn't say this earlier, but in case you have not eaten Boston cream pie, it's not pie. It's like 2 layers of yellow cake with this like thick layer of vanilla custard in the middle, and it's all chocolate glazed. But it's about the custard for me. So this is fantasy fulfillment that I'm writing in A Little Wilder, where the heroine lands herself in this Rush Creek small town with no vanilla custard, but now she has this hot hero who is gonna bring her vanilla custard. And he's not only that, but he's gonna go to the ends of the earth to get this vanilla custard for her. So in order to find her Boston cream pie, he has to run the gauntlet of like all of the overbearing shopkeepers, the gossipy, curious shopkeepers. And then he has to tell his sister that he needs her help baking the Boston cream pie because like he can't do it by himself. And she's like super curious and gossipy too. And his first Boston cream pie is a disaster. And basically this is me putting Mr. Bell through the ringer because he has deprived me of my vanilla custard. So I have an epilogue for this, which is that when Mr. Bell heard that I was going to tell this story, which is about how he deprived me of my vanilla custard, he got this horrified look on his face and he starts like scrolling through his phone. And I'm like, what are you doing? And he says, I'm looking for Italian pastry shops in Seattle. We're going on an Italian pastry mission. I'm going to get you your vanilla custard.
Oh,
so it has a happily ever after. And it's also a good story about how life makes fiction and fiction makes life.
Yeah. I think this is a genius strategy, first of all. I think that's awesome. And also like how lovely that Mr. Bell like rose to the occasion to be a real life romance hero. And also, please tell me you put a Boston cream pie recipe in the back of that book.
I did not. I'm sorry. But there's a really good scene about eating the Boston cream pie.
I will take that.
I want some right now.
I will take that right away, please.
I want to know if Mr. Fox is going to go get a hairless cat.
Not anytime soon. No,
he's terrified. He's terrified.
And Karen, my mind just went really bad places when you said that.
And you can read all about it in Cathryn's upcoming release.
Or you could lay in a horse trough and eat custard. It would be delicious in there.
Yeah. This sounds like a very fun Saturday afternoon to me.
I think this is the point where we should mention that we all write steamy.
I think
that is the reason why.
I feel like maybe people figured that out by now.
Not until just now,
I
perhaps.
know, right? I could be wrong. All right. Well, I have a good story. I have a fun story about my novel, 15 Minutes of Shame, which is one of the books. Unfortunately, because I did a reader event pretty recently and sold out, I do not have a book, but you can kind of see back on, I'm going the wrong way. You can see back on my wall the cover. So there we go. All right. So 15 Minutes of Shame is about a TV dating guru who finds out on national television that her husband has been cheating on her, and he has secretly filed for divorce. And she, like, this is how she finds out. She's doing an interview just like on her brand new book tour, and she finds out from the host when he asks her a sort of gotcha question on the air about what has happened. And the inspiration for this book was that my very first book was, in fact, a dating advice book called Stop Getting Dumped. And because of that, I ended up as the dating guru on this show that I mentioned earlier, Daytime, which was like a nationally syndicated morning show. And so I'm like this, my book was about to come out. I'm all excited. My books come out like in 3 days. I'm at Book Expo, which at the time like doesn't exist anymore, but at the time was like this giant booksellers convention. And I'm feeling, and this is my very first book, and I feel like my dreams are coming true. My life is finally starting. And I'm walking with my agent, and my brand new agent that I've had for, a month. And she says, she's like, oh, hold on just a second. I have to say hi to one of my friends. So she goes running across the hallway and waving to another agent. And it turns out that this agent was the agent for a very popular couple of ladies who wrote some extraordinarily popular dating advice books. And I will not tell you the name, but I will say that you have definitely read it. And it was they were really big books. And so I kind of trail behind my agent, and she says, hey, how's it going? How's it going? And the other agent says, oh my God, it's been awful since the divorce. So these two dating experts had sort of paraded their husbands out like on dog leashes on all these morning shows. And it turns out one of the husbands revolted and filed for divorce and was very public about all the many, many things he was unhappy about. So I've written my first dating book. It's going to come out in 2 days. I just like see my life falling apart before my eyes. Like I haven't even started yet, but I can just see the whole thing just falling apart. Like, oh God, what happens if your career is in part based on another person that you have no control over? And there have been a lot of, not just women, but a lot of women who have seen their careers just, cut down because of their ill-behaved partners. We'll just say that. And certainly the other way too, but we've all seen it. And I just had this like panic attack. But when I got home, I thought, okay, this can make a really funny rom-com story. And so I started writing this story about a dating expert. And by the time I started writing the 15 Minutes of Shame, the novel, I was already pretty deep into being on television, and the dating book had really taken off. And so my life was a lot like Darby, who is the main character in 15 Minutes of Shame. And I wrote this book in part based on sort of that real experience of the panic attack. But what was really fascinating is that the book is about this woman who is Darby, who's this big dating expert, and she's married to a publicist, a book publicist. She's married to a book publicist, and he has decided he's going to get back together with his ex-wife, who's like a reality star. And Darby's doing this interview on the Today Show, and she finds out that her husband is leaving her and going back to his ex-wife. And the biggest sort of thing aside from the like massive betrayal, is that she's grown really, really attached to her husband's children, her stepchildren. And because she's a writer, so she's home all the time, and so she's kind of the person that takes care of these two little kids. And it turns out that in the United States, even though there are millions of men and women taking care of children that are not biologically theirs, you really don't have any rights to them, not even to see them, not even if you've raised them your whole life or their whole lives, if you get a divorce. And so I talked to this guy, John Mayu, who was at the time the top step parents' rights attorney in the country. He's a fascinating guy. He's an Atlanta attorney, and he actually had handled Chris Rock's divorce, or Chris Rock's paternity issue. He handled Jane Fonda's divorce from Ted Turner, and he was like this perfect main character. And originally I had just talked to him about about sort of the law around step parents' rights, specifically for this book. And then what happened is he really was so excited about just being asked that he like wanted to see pages, and then he wanted to see the whole book, and then he had some notes for me, and not just on the legal parts. And he was such a smart, kind, charming guy that Holt, my lawyer, began to take on a lot of characteristics that were a lot like John Mayu, the attorney, the real life attorney. He was Southern and all this stuff. And I guess my little fun anecdote about this is that when we were doing the book tour for the book, he actually did some media with me. And one of the coolest things I think that's ever happened was that on the front page of the features section of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, they did like a comparison between Holt, my main character in 15 Minutes of Shame, and John Mayu, this famous Atlanta attorney, talking about, here's what John does to exercise. Here's this. And it was just like it was just like this sort of joyful, really fun experience. So that was my very first novel. And it's still like one of my absolute favorites. And I love how it ends up. And Holt, the dreamy attorney, is absolutely fantastic and super swoony and completely based in many areas on John Mayu. So there you go.
Oh,
That's
I love
fabulous story, Lisa.
Thanks so much, you guys. So I love, like, before we go, I know that everybody here on screen has two books that are in this fantastic Barnes and Noble BOGO sale.
Can we explain the BOGO sale? I mean, is it obvious what it is?
Well, no, go ahead. Let's explain it. I really love to do that. You want to talk about it, or do you want me to?
I think there's a link in the chat, at least on Facebook, probably on YouTube. Yeah, Nook says, you mean this?
Nick, we do mean that BOGO sale.
There's another author participating, our friend Liz Alden, but she is unfortunately traveling in Europe right now. So she's past her bedtime. But she's got two great books. So each of us has two books, and you can buy any of the books, and then at full price, and then get any of the other books at half price. And you could do this as many times as you want. So you can get all 8 books and save a bunch of money. Did I say it, Red? Is that good?
That was perfect. That was absolutely perfect. So we've talked a little bit about the backstories of all of, not all of the books, but one of each of our books. So let's just go through the list really fast and just sort of tell like the basic storyline really quick, because we only have about 10 minutes before we go. So sort of just like the 30-second elevator speech of the other book that you have. So for Elizabeth, this feels like this goes along with the Sphinx story. Elizabeth, tell us what the name is of your other book.
It was all the cat's fault.
Could have been my title.
It was. And there are several stories in here that were true. And I know we don't have time to go into it, but the opening story really does happen, where her beloved cat gets stuck in the wall. She's in the middle of house renovations. And she has this huge Maine Coon named Thor. And because she loves all the, the Thor movies. She loves Chris Hemsworth. And he gets stuck in the wall, and she has to call a plumber at 2:00 in the morning to come and get this cat out of the wall. And that really did happen to a boyfriend of mine. And so he shows up, and he looks like Chris Hemsworth. And so he turns out to be so empathetic and gets the cat out of the wall. And then he offers to help. He looks around at her house renovation that she's trying to do by herself. And he's like, I could help you. I could teach you how to do all this stuff. So he does. And she's very independent. And he is a super helpful guy. And he's always showing up and trying to help her. And she's always like, whoa, you know, I can do this myself. And Thor, the cat, keeps getting in trouble, and she has to keep, like, he gets hit by a skunk. I mean, all these
Thor.
things happen. And Brett, the hot handyman, keeps coming and helping, and she doesn't know what to do with it. So it's kind of an opposites attract. House renovation disasters left and right. Very mischievous cat. Rom-com. Lots of madness and mayhem. And she has to learn how to open her heart and her life to someone else. And Brett has to learn how to stop taking over. And the cat is a major character. I don't want to spoil it for you, but it's a very fun book. And my favorite thing about this cover, you see the little cat falling down the side of the book?
Love that.
So true.
That's
so true.
awesome. That's
So
awesome.
that's just a little bit about it. It's kind of hard to explain without giving you, too many spoilers, but a lot happens in this book.
If you want to find out what happens in the rest of the book, you could buy it at the BOGO sale. Yay! I love that. Absolutely love that. So, Kelly, tell us a little bit, real quick, about the Ozone.
The Ozone, that's the other book in the BOGO sale. The Ozone, which is definitely a hockey term, is about a hockey player, obviously, this is a very serious, nerdy hockey player who is very, very focused on being the best hockey player that he can be. This story is set in New York City. So when he goes to the games at the arena with his teammates, they walk through the subway, and he quite often sees this busker with green hair, this young woman busker with green hair playing a guitar. She's really good. She sings and plays the guitar. And he's kind of fascinated with her. And then one day she actually approaches him and asks him to go out for coffee with him. And then she asks him to go out on a date. She is, her stepfather is trying to get her back together with her ex-boyfriend who she hates. He is not giving up. There's some business and family stuff in the background there. And he is determined that she's going to marry this guy. And she's determined that she's not going to marry this guy. And so she wants to have a fake date for this party that her stepfather is throwing. So it is a fake relationship romance. What she doesn't know, because she hates hockey, is that the hockey is invited to the party. It actually plays for the team that her stepfather owns. So there's a little complication there. In not only is this messing up our hero's strict routines and his focus and dedication to the game, it could wreck his whole career because the owner of the team was not happy with him right now. So that's the Ozone.
Love it. Love it. I have not read that yet. I'm definitely gonna have to pick that up. As you know, I'm a big hockey fan. Lainey, tell us a little bit about Speed. What is this? Speed Rail?
Yeah.
Okay.
Speed Rail.
Ooh.
Yeah, this is a single dad rom-com. And so we've got Cash, who lives in Pittsburgh. He's just trying to make do as an electrician. He's raising his daughter, and he has this like side hustle passion doing voiceover work and voice acting. And this awful woman opens a gym in the alley behind his house, and she's so loud. She's playing thump thump music. She's waking everybody up, and he calls the city inspector on her because her building is not very safe as Cash sees it. So he gets her business shut down. And then as it happens, one day he misses the fact that the public school has had a half day. So his daughter gets off the bus, and he's not there to let her in. But who's there in the alley but Piper? and she takes care of the little girl, and this enrages Cash because now he has to be nice to her. And so if you want to find out whether he continues to be nice to her, you should read the book and see if she forgives him for getting her business shut down. But this is part of my Bridges and Bitters series, so it's a found family series. So there's a whole girl gang supporting Piper, and I think it's really fun. And it just came out on audio. The audio is on Barnes & Noble as well.
Yay! All right. That is awesome. I love that. Love that. So, Cathryn, tell us all. I know we were talking about Gentlemen in Kilts earlier. You've got Kilt Trip in the cell. Tell us a little about that one.
So Kilt Trip it's a 3-book series, Hot Scots in Kilts. And my heroine is a wedding photographer. And after a very unfortunate incident with a sheep during a photo shoot, she gets fired. And no sheep were harmed in this book. I'll just put that right up there. And I don't know where your head's gone with that, but you can read it to find out. So she goes, her friend wins a trip, like to be like on Outlander, and she goes with her. And the hero is a soccer player, a star. So, sports in this as well. And he's injured and he's working at his family Airbnb. And their meet cute is kind of fun because when she first gets to Scotland, she goes up on a hill and she starts to take pictures. And later on that night, she feels something between her thighs. She's not really sure what it is. And the hero shows up and there's some tweezers involved. And it's kind of funny. So read it.
Tweezers. I love that. So I'm sorry, all of us are like, woo. Okay, so that was Kilt Trip. Tell us a little bit, Karen, about what I'm looking for, which is also in the sale today.
I'm sorry, I'm just stuck on the sheep and the tweezers. And I don't know. So this is what I'm looking for. This is also a Boston Classics book, and this is another Opposites Attract book between an actor named Will and a finance geek named what the hell?
We have all done this. I feel like I jinxed you for
you did. I'm seriously looking here for her name.
Kate is her name. Kate.
Kate, thank you.
It's a great book. I've read it.
Kate. And so this book is chock full of things that actually happened to me, from the juggler incident to the first commercial that he does is based on one that I shot. But it's there's also a lot of Shakespeare, but don't worry. It's well explained and it's well performed in the audiobook. But this is it's kind of like I don't know if you remember that old movie with Melanie Griffith and Harrison Ford, Working Girl. Thank you.
I also had a brain fart just then.
Yeah.
Yes. So I love that movie.
Because she has to deal with a lot of sexual harassment that many of us had to deal with in the 80s in offices. And he kind of saves her several times, even though she resents it. So you, if you want to find out how they get through all that, then you should get what I'm looking for.
Love it. Love it. All right, Serena, tell us a little bit about Hot Take.
Okay, so I cannot get used to the camera. Okay, so Hot Take is the first book in my second Rush Creek series. So A Little Wilder is the Wilder brothers, and this is the Hot brothers. And the Hot brothers are in a bunch of trouble because their grandfather's will has required them to do some pretty seriously wacky things in order to save their sister's land and business. And in this situation, the grandfather has required the hero to cause a celebrity wedding to happen. His sister's business is a wedding venue. And so he needs to cause a celebrity wedding to happen. And he has exhausted all of the possibilities for celebrity weddings that could possibly happen. But he himself is a celebrity. He's a movie star. And he has played kind of a dark fae lord in this series of movies. And so he decides that his best possible bet for solving this problem is to fake propose to another actress who's living in Rush Creek, who is has decided that she wants nothing to do with fame or Hollywood, or very much with Hollywood bad boys, which he is. So many shenanigans ensue. But the way in which this book comes from life is just that there's a lot of kind of role playing and references to each of their to the movies that he's in and the TV show that she's in, which are based on a book series that I loved and a TV series that I loved. And so I got to kind of fangirl indirectly through these characters by sort of putting them in costumes and situations and stuff, so that I could kind of play with them on the page.
Love that. That is fantastic.
Mhm.
So great. So that's Hot Take. And then for me, my last book, my second book in the sale is The Cutting Edge, which is the very first book in my hockey rom-com series. And it is about the team captain of the St. Pete Slashers. His name is Logan Rivers, and he's like the big stud, but he's in a slump. He's in a big slump. And one day he's a single dad. And one day he is in practice, and he is late to pick up his daughter, who happens to be taking ice skating lessons from an ice skater who is actually an ice skater with Olympic hopes, who is paying for her own training expenses. And so she is teaching little kids how to ice skate on the side, as a way to support her training and get some ice time. And so she's got a friend in the hospital that she's got to get to, because she's got to pick her up, an elderly neighbor. And so she is tromping through the ice rink trying to find this little girl's dad. And they head into the rink where the Slashers have their practice, right at the time when Logan is making a slap shot in frustration, which comes and smacks her in the head, knocks her out cold, and she ends up waking up in the emergency room. And who is there by her side but this little girl who is her student and her hunky father. So a lot of the romance takes place in the hospital room, but what's kind of the big sort of stressor is that she only has a limited amount of time in order to qualify for the nationals, and because of the concussion protocols, she has to be cleared before she can get back to practice. And so she's basically feeling like he has ruined her chances at getting back to the Olympics, because she'd been before, but she'd had kind of a bad experience. So that's it. And so what happens is she is broke. She can't practice. She doesn't have any way to make money, and she can just see her Olympic dreams going down the tubes. And one of the assistant coaches approaches her and says, "Hey, since Logan met you, he's been playing a lot better. What if the team hired you to be his lucky charm?" And she says yes. Mm-hmm. All right. So that's it. If the book is The Cutting Edge, I do not have it with me. Oh, but you can see it right back there on my wall, The Cutting Edge. And we have our friend Liz has 2 books in the sale. She's got The Fling in Panama and Butter You Up, which I think Butter You Up is such a fun title. So we did have a really great question from Nook that I think we should answer before we go, and then we should say our goodbyes. And the question is, how do you find the right balance of humor and romance? Who wants to answer this question? Don't everybody do it once. Okay.
Well, I just wanted to share that somebody recently on Threads was talking about how they go into their romantic comedy making things funny from the premise, like the idea, the concept of the book, at the scene level and at the line level, the dialogue level. So that has really helped me sort of vocalize what I aim to do when I'm writing.
That's a really great answer. How about you, Serena?
I was just going to say that sometimes the book comes together so that the romance comes first. And I mean, the premise does always have to be funny in order for it to work. But sometimes as I'm writing, I can really feel the romance coming on the page more easily. And I have to sort of work through like, how do I make this scene funnier? How do I make it shinier or brighter, glitterier? And then sometimes it's the other way around where it's just like they're right in there with like the banter and the dialogue. But sometimes I have to like be like, okay, well, what are you guys feeling for each other right now? Like, how do I get that on the page? So it's a balancing act where you kind of figure out which is coming more easily and then add in the other what's missing.
Yeah, I think that's true too. Like, it's not even the same. It's not like it's the same process, at least not for me. It's not even the same process from book to book. There are some things where you think like, oh, the premise is really funny and that that comedy should sort of come really easily. And sometimes it does, but sometimes you're sort of swept away and surprised by the romance of the story. And you have to like go back and find those little funny moments or find ways to make sort of naturally occurring disasters. Because this is one good thing, right? When you're dating is just full, and falling in love, just full of awkward and hilarious moments in real life and also in fiction. So yeah, but I totally agree with you. Anybody else have anything to say on this? How do you find the right balance of humor and romance?
I think for me, because I come from an acting background where we were trained to always ground everything in reality. So sometimes humor comes from ridiculous people in serious situations. And sometimes it comes from serious people in ridiculous situations. But either way that you play it, it has to be real to the people experiencing it. So even if on the outside, you're looking at it going, this is ridiculous, the people experience it, whether you're the actor or in the case now, we're creating these characters, it has to be super serious and super high stakes for them too. I mean, everything has to, it's like the flip of a tragedy, right? It has to be ridiculous, but super high stakes. And God, there was something else I was going to say about it. I forget. So that's my point of view.
Love it. That was fantastic. Does anybody else have anything to say on this topic before we say our goodbyes? All right, we're fantastic. Well, thank you so much, everybody. This was such a fun conversation. And thank you so much to Barnes & Noble and Nook. We are so grateful that you chose us to be part of this amazing, amazing event. You guys are really, really fantastic, and we're so grateful. Thank you again for dropping that link right in the chat. So if you guys are looking to get over there, and that sale goes from now through August 8th. So thanks so much.
Don't hesitate.
Don't hesitate.
That's right.
On it.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.